The car came to a sudden halt. Pulling over to the shoulder, Jake got out of the driver's seat and violently opened the door to the back seat where I was sitting. Looking up, I saw Jake's expression was unnaturally cold. "Get out!" Not understanding the meaning of his words, I couldn't respond, and then Jake grabbed my arm and pulled. "I said get out!" "Ouch! Stop it!" Forcefully dragged out of the car, I lost my balance and fell onto the road. As I was trying to comprehend Jake's sudden and aggressive actions, my belongings were thrown in front of me. "Ruining our day off with your water breaking, wasting our time like that." Jake gave me a cold stare. I couldn't understand what was happening. As I endured the pain, clutching my stomach, Emily, who had come down from the passenger seat, whispered in my ear, "This is your punishment for stealing Dad from me." Stunned by her harsh words, I looked at Emily's face. "We're going on a trip, just the two of us. I couldn't care less about what happens to you." Emily smirked, called out "Let's go" to Jake, and went back to the car. Without saying a word, Jake glanced at me, got back in the driver's seat, and they drove away, leaving me behind. My name is Kate. I'm a housewife, currently 8 months pregnant. I married Jake a year and a half ago. Jake is divorced, and he has custody of his child from his previous marriage, Emily. Emily, a middle school student at the time, was going through a sensitive phase and only talked to me when absolutely necessary. She seemed to get along well with Jake, openly showing affection to him, which he happily reciprocated. Being an only child, I wasn't sure how to communicate with younger people and didn't know the appropriate distance to keep from Emily, but I thought we could slowly close the gap over time. After all, we had plenty of time. Or so I thought. Our relationship changed dramatically when I found out I was pregnant. A visit to the hospital confirmed that I was 3 months pregnant. Overjoyed to be expecting, I was ecstatic. I decided to share the news with Jake and Emily at dinner that night. "Jake, Emily, I'm pregnant." Jake's face lit up. "You're pregnant?" "That's great," he exclaimed, sounding truly happy. "Yes, I'm so happy to be expecting our child." Turning to Emily, I saw that she was staring at me. It wasn't her usual indifferent expression. She seemed to be frowning slightly and gritting her teeth. I immediately regretted my thoughtless words. I had intended to treat Emily like my own child. That's why, no matter how distant she was, I tried to interact with her as usual. But from Emily's perspective, my pregnancy might have made her feel left out of the family. And my words about expecting our child could have made her feel even more excluded. "Emily, you're going to have a little brother or sister. You'll take good care of them, won't you?" Trying not to let my panic show, I spoke to Emily. Whether she understood or not, she simply said okay, and went to her room. "I'm sorry, I said something insensitive to Emily. It might have been a delicate topic. But Emily will understand it eventually." That day, Emily didn't come out of her room. The next day, Emily came into the living room a bit later than usual. There was a slightly awkward atmosphere. I greeted Emily as usual. "Good morning, Emily. Breakfast is ready." Emily glanced at the breakfast on the table in silence. She took her seat, and as soon as she took a bite, she uttered words of surprise. "This is terrible." "Huh? I said it's terrible. I've always thought that, but you're not good at cooking, right? Being forced to eat this every day is nothing but painful." Emily said so and left her seat. "Oh, the lunchbox. Did you hear what I just said? I don't need the lunchbox. Give me some money instead." I simply stared at Emily's outstretched hand. If I were her real parent, what would be the right thing to do in this situation? I took a $5 from my wallet and placed it on her hand. "Just $5? Well, whatever." She muttered softly and left the house. That evening, I was debating whether to tell Jake about this morning's events. Jake leaves for work earlier than Emily, so he doesn't know what happened this morning. Emily didn't come out of her room. I didn't want to eat the meal I made for myself, so I put hot water in a cup ramen noodle container and took it to my room. I planned to have it for dinner today. After returning home, Jake was puzzled by Emily's absence in the living room. What happened to Emily? Jake looked around nervously. I was still hesitating. If Jake told Emily what he had heard from me, Emily might think I had tattled on her. If that happened, our relationship could deteriorate even further. I couldn't even determine what was the right thing to do. She's not feeling well today, so she's going to rest early. I decided to lie. Sure enough, Jake expressed concern about Emily's condition and said he would check on her in her room. Since she should be sleeping by now, I prepared dinner. I sat at the seat opposite to Jake, slowly rubbing my stomach, thinking about what I should do next. The next morning, when Emily woke up, Jake was about to leave for work at the front door. I was there too, planning to see him off. Emily, you didn't seem well last night. Are you okay? Jake looked at me with a puzzled expression. Then, after furrowing his brows at me for a moment, he turned to Jake and smiled, saying, "Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry for worrying you." I see, that's good. But don't push yourself too hard, okay? With a relieved expression, Jake left the house. As Emily waved goodbye to Jake, she gave me a sharp look as soon as the door closed. Why are you pretending to be such a nice person? What do you mean? I asked Emily, not understanding the meaning behind her words. Why didn't you just tell Dad the truth? That Emily said mean things to you, and you were hurt. Even if you try to please me, I won't accept you. With a huff, Emily turned her back to me and headed for the bathroom. Certainly, I had hurt Emily. However, would it lead to this? She's at a difficult age, and I thought time might resolve it, but maybe it's not that simple. I was left feeling unsure of what to do, trapped in a state of confusion. As my morning sickness subsided and I entered the final month of pregnancy, I invited my in-laws over for tea. My in-laws were very kind to me and showed concern for my well-being. I'm sorry for coming to your house during such a difficult time. But we wanted to meet you and have a chat before it gets even more challenging after the baby arrives, my mother-in-law said. No problem at all. I'm happy to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Have you been doing well? I inquired. We've been doing fine. If you ever run into any troubles, don't hesitate to ask for our help, my father-in-law added. Despite the kind words, Emily's attitude towards me remained unchanged. During the times when Jake wasn't around, she continued to berate me with stronger words than before. You never seem to improve your cooking skills. What kind of nerve do you have to feed your family this garbage? Don't wander around with your big body in front of me. You're an eyesore. You're not even part of this family. Don't stick your nose into what I'm doing. I was subjected to such words every day, and gradually, it felt like my heart was losing its sensation. I no longer felt hurt as I did initially. It seemed that Jake, although he didn't confront me directly, sensed that our relationship wasn't going well, and he focused on keeping Emily in a good mood. One day, when Jake came home drunk and told me, "You're to blame for upsetting Emily," I realized that I couldn't rely on him anymore. If I could endure it alone, I decided to continue doing so. However, if something happened that targeted the child I was about to give birth to, that was my only concern at the moment. Kate, are you okay? My mother-in-law called out to me, and I suddenly snapped back to reality. When I looked up, I saw the worried faces of my in-laws looking at me. I'm sorry, I'm fine. My stomach feels heavy, and I couldn't sleep well last night. If you ever face any difficulties, don't hesitate to ask for our help. We're really grateful to you, Kay, for marrying our son, who is divorced and has a child. Jake's divorce was due to his mounting debts. He had borrowed money repeatedly to satisfy Emily's demands, and his ex-wife couldn't bear it anymore, so she initiated the divorce. Jake's salary alone wasn't enough to repay the debt, and I heard that my in-laws had stepped in to help. They were still paying off the debt in installments, but my in-laws were delighted that Jake remarried me. They also expressed their worry and promised to support us if anything happened. Having such kind in-laws, I felt happy. I smiled, thinking that I shouldn't make them worry any further. About a week before the expected due date. It was a Saturday. Jake and Emily were both relaxing at home. They sat side by side on the couch, seeming to get along, but I didn't have a place in their conversation. I sat at the dining table a little away, sipping on caffeine-free tea, absent-mindedly watching their interaction. Then, I felt an uncomfortable sensation in my abdomen. I paled in an instant. Could it be labor? At first, I thought it might be my imagination, so I tried to calm myself by sipping more tea. However, the same abdominal pains struck again. There was no mistaking it. Labor was coming. I realized it with certainty and decided to inform Jake and Emily, intending to endure the pain. But just as I was about to call out to them, I felt a sensation of my lower body getting wet. My water broke. Panic overcame me. Jake, Emily. I think my water broke, I weakly uttered. Jake immediately said. With their faces turned toward me, my two companions reacted. I'll get the car ready, and Emily said. I've prepared the bags. I'll take them to the car. While I changed my clothes, the two of them swiftly prepared everything. I got into the car with Jake driving, me in the back seat, and Emily in the front passenger seat. Looking back now, I should have noticed something was off right here. It was unnatural for them to be so considerate of me, even carrying my luggage, given their attitudes up to this point. But at that moment, I was so shaken up by the initial contractions and my water breaking that I didn't feel any sense of discomfort. The OB/GYN clinic I usually go to is about a 15-minute drive away. It's a well-known hospital around these parts, so Jake knew where it was. I was trying to calm myself down while enduring the pain and looking down. But even after about 15 minutes, the car showed no signs of stopping. Feeling something was wrong, I looked out the window and saw an unfamiliar landscape. It seemed like we were going up a mountain road, with fewer and fewer houses around. There wasn't supposed to be a place like this on the way to the hospital. Hey, Jake, where are we? This doesn't seem like the way to the hospital. Jake didn't respond. Emily stayed silent too. Jake? Emily? The car didn't seem like it was going to stop. The contractions were getting worse. Both of you, please listen. The pain is getting stronger. We need to get to the hospital quickly, or the baby. The car suddenly came to a screeching halt. Jake parked the car on the shoulder, got out of the driver's seat, and roughly opened the door to the back seat where I was sitting. Looking up, Jake's expression seemed unusually cold. Get out. Not understanding what he meant, I couldn't respond. Then Jake grabbed my arm and pulled. I said get out. Ow! Stop it! He forcefully dragged me out of the car, and I lost my balance and fell onto the road. Before I could comprehend Jake's sudden aggressive behavior, my luggage was thrown in front of me. Ruining our day off with your water breaking, wasting our time like that. Jake looked at me with a cold gaze. I couldn't understand what was happening. Jake, why are you doing this? Please, take me to the hospital. Don't you care what happens to our baby? That baby isn't mine. Why should I care? Jake's words echoed in my head. Did he just say it's not his child? What is he talking about? Emily told me. You've been cheating, haven't you? I looked at Emily. She was smirking maliciously and glanced at me from the corner of her eye. The baby you're carrying is from your lover, isn't it? You couldn't possibly love it, even if it's born. I have no obligation to help. Wait, this child is truly yours. I didn't cheat. So you're saying Emily lied to me? That's impossible. I can't believe you'd try to demean your own daughter just because you don't like Emily. All sorts of thoughts raced through my mind. I couldn't believe Emily would go this far. How can I save my baby? I need to clear up Jake's misunderstanding. As I endured the pain without speaking, Jake hurled more abusive words at me. You betrayed us first. This is all your own doing. I realized that talking to Jake was probably pointless. He'd do anything to stay in Emily's good graces. No matter what I said, he probably wouldn't believe me. I needed to figure out a way to protect my baby on my own. As I held my belly and endured the agony, Emily, who had gotten out of the car, spoke into my ear. This is your punishment for stealing Dad from me. Her words were like a final blow. I looked at Emily's face. We're going on a trip, just the two of us. I couldn't care less what happens to you. Emily flashed a sly smile, called out to Jake, hurry up, let's go, and went back to the car. Without saying a word, Jake shot me a quick glance and climbed into the driver's seat. Leaving me behind, the two of them drove away in the car. Luckily, my cell phone was inside the bag that was thrown out. I tried to call for an ambulance, but I was out of the service area and couldn't get through. Thinking that I had to somehow make it down the mountain, I staggered to my feet and started to walk down the slope, one step at a time. Along the way, a local happened to pass by and offered to give me a ride down the mountain. Grateful for my good fortune, once I got to a place with cell service, I called someone. I couldn't forgive the two of them for abandoning me and putting my baby in danger. Enduring the labor pains, I swore in my heart that I would get my revenge. 2 hours later. Thanks to a kind person, I was at a nearby hospital, getting ready to give birth. It seemed like it would be a while before the birth, so I lay in bed, trying to find a comfortable position. Then, my cell phone vibrated. Emily's name was displayed on the screen. When I answered the call, Emily shouted in a piercing voice. What the hell did you do? Who are you? What? What are you joking about? I'm your daughter, Emily. I don't have a daughter. Stop joking around. Because of you, I might not be able to go to high school. I couldn't help but smile when I realized that they were already on the move. What do you mean by that? Explain yourself. From the way you're acting, did you get a call from Grandma or Grandpa? Yeah. They told me they won't be helping those people who treat our family badly anymore. What does help even mean? Why can't I go to high school because of this? It seemed like Jake hadn't told Emily anything. Maybe his generosity was just a front, wanting to show off. Do you know what caused Jake's divorce? Mom's affair, right? That's why I chose to live with Dad. He's lying about that. The real reason for the divorce was Jake's debts. Emily fell silent on the other end of the line. Was she that shocked to find out her father had lied to her? What? Dad lied to me? That's right. Jake said he couldn't pay off his debts with his salary alone, so your grandparents stepped in to help pay them back. That can't be right. Dad earns enough to buy me anything I want, doesn't he? I think his salary is average, but it's not high enough to easily buy a high schooler luxurious bags and clothes and pay private high school tuition without taking out a loan. Emily seemed to be confronting Jake right next to her. I couldn't hear clearly, but I could hear shouting. Hey! What the hell is this all about? Now Jake was on the phone. Clearly furious. What do you mean, what's this all about? I just told the truth. There's no need to tell Emily things I haven't told her myself, creating stories that aren't true. I only told her because she wanted to know the situation. Isn't it your fault for keeping it a secret? You. Getting all high and mighty on me. Maybe it was because we weren't face to face, or perhaps my feelings had cooled down. But I wasn't scared even though Jake was yelling. I even felt pity for him, being able to do nothing but shout. Kate, could you please hand me the phone? My father-in-law took the phone from me and started talking to Jake. I called my in-laws from the mountain road, informing them that I was heading to the nearby hospital. They said they would come right away, rushing over to check on me. Jake, is that you? What? Dad? I've heard everything from Kate. Cancel your trip and come straight home, we need to talk. But, I can't just. Emily is looking forward to the trip. This is not the time for that. You said you've been repaying the debt we helped you with monthly, but you haven't paid a dime. We need to have a serious talk about that. Okay, I understand. I'll head over as soon as possible. Sighing deeply, my father-in-law handed me back my cell phone. I'm sorry to bother you during such a tough time, Kate. No, I'm really grateful that you came. I've brought the stuff you asked for as well. My mother-in-law handed me a piece of paper, making its contents visible to me. Taking it, I sighed again. Thank you. I'm sorry. We are the ones who should be apologizing. We're sorry for putting you in such a dangerous situation. As my in-laws bowed their heads together, I told them to stop. Right now, I'm just praying for a healthy baby to be born. Since we don't know when those two will come home, we are going to leave. Thank you. I'll contact you once I know if I can transfer to my usual hospital. Thank you, they said, and then my in-laws left. What I need to do now is give birth safely. The intervals between my contractions are getting shorter. I'll be meeting my baby very soon. The delivery was safe, and a healthy baby boy was born. I was relieved from the bottom of my heart when the doctor told me that there were no problems at all. Exhausted, I checked my cell phone the next day and found a rather long email from my mother-in-law. Last night, Jake and Emily visited their parents' house. There, my in-laws explained Jake's reason for the divorce and told Emily that her selfishness also contributed to the increasing debt. Emily, unaware of the debt, blamed and berated Jake. As Jake became disheartened under Emily's scolding, my in-laws pressed further. We can't trust you anymore. Pay back the debt we've been covering for you in one lump sum. But I can't pay it all at once. I don't even have savings. It's your own fault for not paying back a single dime and always taking advantage of us. Please! I'll pay it back monthly, just let me pay in installments. You've only got yourself to blame for not being trustworthy. We've lost all desire to help you after what you did to Kate. Despite their desperate pleas, asserting that they were not to blame, my father-in-law remained unmoved. And then, the document I had entrusted to my mother-in-law dealt the final blow. Kate has entrusted this to me. Fill it out right here, right now. This is a divorce form. Why do you have this? It's what Kate wants. She can't live with you two after you put her and the baby in danger. If Kate can't forgive you, neither can we. Although Jake was reluctant to divorce, he eventually gave in and filled out the form on the spot. I felt sorry for burdening my in-laws with such a difficult task, but I might not have been able to divorce so smoothly on my own. I felt grateful to my cooperative in-laws once again. 1 month after the birth. It happened when I visited my usual OB/GYN clinic for a regular checkup. Jake appeared before me. Kate! I finally found you! Looking slightly haggard, I responded to Jake with a calm demeanor. What do you want? The divorce has already been finalized. What do you want now? Don't be so cold. Is that my child? As Jake tried to approach the child, I stepped back. You were the one who said it wasn't your child. Stay away. What do you want anyway? Jake stood up straight on the spot, seemingly shocked by my words, but then he started to apologize loudly. Please, give us another chance. What are you talking about now? I can't live with someone who wouldn't help me when things got tough. Getting back together is out of the question. I guess you're right. So, could you at least lend me some money? I was dumbfounded by his words, true to his nature until the very end. I knew my in-laws had told him to repay the debt they had been covering, but his lack of planning was astonishing. I can't lend money to someone who spends without thinking ahead. I need money to raise this child. It's impossible. Please! Think of it as helping me and Emily. Jake kept apologizing, completely unabashed by the bystanders. That's when my in-laws, who had accompanied me to the appointment, stepped in. What are you doing, ambushing her like this?
Dad! Why are you here?
That's our line. We told you to stay away from Kate and our house. Did we not?
But I can't make ends meet, and I thought Kate could help.
Stop making excuses. If you come near Kate again, we will call the police. And then, you and Emily will be disowned. Without giving Jake a chance to respond, my in-laws turned him away. Realizing he had no other options, Jake silently stood up and left. I watched him leave with a bitter feeling in my heart. Even after the divorce, I kept in touch with my in-laws. We would contact each other regularly, and they seemed happy to see their grandchild's face. According to them, Jake and Emily were having a tough time. In the end, Jake couldn't pay off the debt in a lump sum and decided to repay it in installments. Since we've talked about cutting ties, if there's even a single late repayment, he'll surely be desperate to pay back from now on. Emily had to drop out of high school because Jake's income alone wasn't enough to cover both the debt repayment and tuition fees. The in-laws were torn about this decision but decided to be strict to make her understand the gravity of her actions. She seems to have started working part-time since she couldn't find a full-time job, but her selfish nature made it hard to keep the job, and she's now mentally drained. Unable to spend as freely as before, the two of them are now living a frugal life. I do feel bad for causing the in-laws so much trouble, but all I can do is pray that Jake and Emily will somehow turn their lives around and become decent people. As for me, I've moved back to my family home far away and am living with my son. My parents have warmly welcomed me back, and they are overjoyed to live with their grandson. I hope my son grows up to be a considerate person. And with the help of the kind people around us, I want us to live a happy life together.